Sweet. Maybe we start out with a little warm up.
Okay.
Just kidding.
Me.
Just kidding. I'm like sweating balls. I don't want to do anything right now. So this is Sarah and Mark from Mobility Duo. Y'all want to introduce yourselves?
Sure.
Other than what I just said.
I'm Sarah. I teach yoga. I'm a yoga instructor, licensed massage therapist, and then certified personal trainer. And
my name is Mark. I'm a doctor of physical therapy and an aspiring professional soccer player.
Yay!
Not really. In my dreams, I am.
Yeah.
I'll never be. Yeah.
I love this. Well, before you become a professional soccer player, talk to Yuri because he wants to make an NFT of you as the professional soccer player.
Nice.
That's a great idea.
Yuri is obsessed with NFTs.
Are you really?
Guess
Yeah.
what?
My background is even one. I've just been on this huge kick. I don't know if we should dive too far into this.
That's the card, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I knew it.
He's so happy.
What? How do you know this?
I like crypto too, so yeah, I'm a big Cardano fan.
Cool. Perfect. Well, Mary and our backgrounds are just lowly pictures taken by Mary. So there's that.
Okay, we don't know how to do backgrounds, so.
Do all of those snowboards have names?
No.
Oh man, I think
That's a good question.
yours.
Mine have names, and one of Mark's has names. The bear is Gary, but that's like Burton names the bear Gary, so it's just Gary.
Yeah.
But all mine have names.
Which what's your all-day slayer? Like if your house was on fire and you could only grab one, which one?
That's a good question. It's hard for me because I haven't ridden this pro board at the end here, Jamie Anderson's pro board yet. And so I don't really know if that would be it, but my ride or die is the GNU Chromatic, the purple one at the moment.
Woof, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm
I
gonna
love
go.
GNU.
We just got this one, this lid, this Travis Rice Pro.
T-Rice.
I haven't ridden it yet, but I'm very excited.
Yeah.
So if there was a fire, that's the first thing I grab besides Sarah.
Very good save. Cool. Oh no. Okay, so you guys are like insta-famous. That's how we know about you. But you actually didn't grow up on the internet and probably, well, as you told me before, maybe you don't even know how the internet works.
Yes, this is true.
Actually, I mean, I actually don't know how the internet works. I mean, if you're talking like.
Oh well, I don't either.
Okay. Who invented the internet? Al Gore, right? Was it
Really?
Anyway. Anyways.
Yeah, we grew up I grew up at least without any internet and no TV. So this was all new to me. When I went to college, I had to do like Word Excel stuff. And they were like, oh, use Word Excel to do this. And I was like, what is that? Like it was like a different language. And so, this has all been a learning experience. Like I've taken classes on how to edit things and taken classes on like how to, use everything that we've been using to grow the business. So yeah, it's been very much a learning experience.
Yeah. And to put it in perspective, when I was in elementary school, we used to have computer lab and one kid would get chosen to use the color computer and everyone else had to use black and white computers.
Are you saying you're a dinosaur?
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, that sounds weird now, but that's how it is. Yeah.
That's funny.
Did you ever get to use the colored one?
We did. Yeah, I did.
Did you?
Like, I remember once, and they had we would play games and stuff on it. Yeah, it was a game changer for sure.
Was it all of us fantastic?
Yeah, and I remember our teachers got the new. I don't know if you remember the colored Macs. Like they were like the big bulky screens. That was a big deal, and our school all the teachers got one of those, and that was a huge deal. Yeah.
Yeah, computers were so heavy.
Yeah,
So heavy.
for sure. Yeah, it was. But yeah, to answer your question, I don't know. I think I've been able to manage and get around with like utilizing managing internet and
Yeah, you're good at
managing
it.
the electronics and the back side of everything. And
Yeah.
I don't know. You can usually fiddle and figure things out. It takes a while. It's frustrating, but
In the beginning, Mark was definitely the IT guy.
yeah.
Like it's like having your own business, you wear so many hats, as you know, and Mark was the IT guy for sure
Yeah.
for a very long time.
It's so frustrating though. Like I have mad respect for those IT.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yuri is our IT guy.
Yep.
You know, basically, I think our first pod was just Mary and I, and you could see our mouths moving, but not anything else. And
Yep.
we were just typing, "Help, Yuri, help."
Yep.
Yeah. So you were saying in the beginning, so did you always have the idea to have just sort of a way to help people with their snowboarding physical health, or what was like the beginning idea that got you guys all started?
Yeah. So I started the term Snoga back in like, gosh, I don't even know, 2016, maybe 15 or 16. And
I think your website says 15.
Your website says 2015.
Oh, it was 15. Yeah. Then it was 15. So I started snowboarding in 2012, and I've been doing yoga since before that. And then I started on the mountain. I started doing headstands with the snowboard on my feet, which is so hard, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's so much weight. It's so hard. But so I started doing that, and then we all just started calling it Snoga for like just for funny. And then I went to my yoga teacher training, 2 years ago now, almost exactly 2 years ago. And when I got back, I was like, oh, I really want to teach to high schoolers because that's where I learned yoga, was in a high school. And then I don't know, slowly but surely, I just put my passion with my passion, like put them together. And I was like, oh, for snowboarders, do these stretches because we just went up and rode today and this was killing me. So it might be killing you too. And yeah, and then and then people were like, we want more, like more Snoga. And then it just kind of, we're like, okay, well, people want this, so we're going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
What's
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. What's the most common like question or ask like both of you get about Mobility Duo and about Snoga?
Do you want to answer that?
So did you say most common question?
Yeah, or like what's the biggest ask? Like, are people more like my knees, or I'm worried about my knees, or like, you know, is there like a common problem that you're like, wow, so many people have this?
Yeah, that's a good question.
That is a good question.
So mostly it's I don't think we can apply it to a broad term, but it's mostly individuals' current or past injuries. So that's all over the body, but for sure, I mean, in regards to snowboarding, it's going to be knees and shoulders. Those are probably the two biggest body parts, but they're always specific to someone. Like, yo, I tore my ACL like 9 years ago. I'm still having issues, or I dislocated my shoulder. I'm really benefited from the exercises that you've shown. What else can I do? So those are probably the two biggest body parts and the two biggest questions that we get. And Sarah and I were discussing this. We have to be really careful because these aren't patients of ours. We don't know anything about their history. I haven't seen them move. I don't know if they're being seen by a health professional. I don't know what their current activities are. There's so many things. So we have to be like, okay, this is what we can kind of suggest, but again, seek out your health care professional. Maybe that's us, maybe that's not. But without diving in like really deep into their history and you know, having them sign, you know, legality intake paperwork, we have to be very careful with suggestions that we provide.
Yeah.
And did you learn that because like somebody came at you and was like, I'm hurt, I want to sue you, or you just started out careful and are making sure like,
well,
you know?
Yeah, they can sue us. It's fine. I have lots of student debt if they want to take care of it. No, we haven't. We've been very careful with that, and obviously, like customer service is our number one priority. So if we have yet to have someone that's truly that unhappy, we can usually not absolve, that's not the right word, but like resolve the situation, help them out in whatever is going on.
But in most healthcare fields, like even massage, like you're told that you can't go outside of your scope, and you can't help someone who's not your patient. Like you don't know, like ethically, you don't know what's going on with them, because every injury is different. One ACL tear is not the same as the other ACL tear. You have different strengths and weaknesses from one person to the next. So for us to tell someone, oh, blanket statement, slap this on it and it'll be fine no matter what every single time, like that's being unethical, because you could do more harm than good.
Yeah.
And so it's just, it's not even, it's legal matters, but then it's also like, we don't want you to hurt yourself more because of a blanket statement.
So I don't know you very well, but you seem like generally good people. Have you ever talked to each other about like, what if you became so high, like in the guru spectrum, like you had communes of people visiting you? Like, do you think that you would build a bunker and have lots of guns and like have people start mass producing like secret drugs?
We actually had this conversation tonight. It's weird.
Did we?
No.
Oh.
No. When that time comes, then we'll discuss this as I'm getting served grapes.
Oh my God. You know what? I think because we're doing this together, we constantly bring each other, like we hold each other accountable. Like there's never a moment where we're like, hey, I'm hot shit. It's like, no, you're not. Shut up. You know, I mean, we love each other and we're nice, but we really do bring each other back down to, I don't know, we keep each other accountable for things. And I think security is a big one. Like, as you know, Mark's dad is an ex-FBI agent. And so like, we don't want anyone to know where we live. We don't want anyone to know where, like, you know, we take security very seriously.
Yeah, I'm sure you could find it if you really wanted to know. It's all out there.
So how do you work with that juxtapose of being like incredibly private, but having a business on the interwebs where everyone wants to know everything about you?
That's a good question. I don't think there's like, if someone wants to know everything about you, we're in the like day and age where they can do that. Like people can find out and dig through the dark web and find all that stuff out. So that's like the trade-off, right? If you're going to do this business, if you're going to be on social media specifically, that's a trade-off. You have to be able to be willing to, you know, expose yourself to some degree. But again, we only reveal or release information that we feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of information that we haven't revealed, and that's kind of why we're here. Is we're kind of discussing who we are and our mindset and our goal with this business. So,
and I think most of our stuff is done with this very set. Like, you know, like you don't really see a ton of stuff from us that's in our home or outside our home or anything. Or if we go and like go mountain biking or anything, like we'll take pictures or like, oh yeah, take a video, but we'll put it away and deal with it later. So we're never in the area that we're like, oh, we're here right now.
Yeah.
You know, like not that we think anyone's gonna do anything, but like that's just naturally, we don't like to be on our phones when we're out doing things. So it's like picture, put it away. And so that's another realm where it's like, it works.
Yeah, it's good to have like boundaries and lines of like when it's time to be on and you know, when you're just having your good old time.
Yeah.
100%. I think there's a definite gray area, but that's the term I was going for, like boundaries.
Yeah.
So what's like, if you met other kids that were raised by FBI agents, like what's one thing like you guys would all be like, oh yeah, like that's how you know, like you know those memes that are like how to say I'm an FBI agent's kid without saying it.
That's actually a really good question. Yeah. You're asking great questions. I've never thought about that. Like, weirdly enough, a lot of kids, not necessarily from the FBI, but from just law enforcement, they tend to have a what's the term I'm looking for?
On the shoulder.
Not a chip on their shoulder, but like a degree of mischief or past like law breaking, or for whatever reason they've kind of veered off the straight and narrow. A lot of them come back, but it's, I don't know how to describe it.
It's like a preacher's son. Or a
Yeah.
preacher's
Yeah,
daughter.
exactly. I would say, if you were to ask me that, I think, gosh, this is a good question for Sarah.
For me,
From outside perspective, yeah.
oh my gosh, when we met, my family is the opposite of Mark's family. Like my family, like just an example, we were at the beach this weekend for my aunt's 50th birthday, and we were leaving to all go on a walk, and we were like, oh, should we lock the door? And my Uncle Paul was like, no. He was like, we'll probably never lock the door this whole weekend. And we didn't, like, even at night. And like, it's just my family, my dad would go grocery shopping and leave the keys in the car with the car unlocked and just go in the grocery store. It is crazy. And so when we first met, it was such a weird thing, because I would just put things in my car and we'd go somewhere and he'd be like, put it in the trunk. I'm like, why? He was like, put it in the trunk. And I was like, nobody wants my crap. Like it's I don't know.
Okay, that's
very
that's
security
so
focused.
You're very much in the mind of a criminal.
Yes.
I know that sounds weird.
Yes.
But I'm always like, that's how my mind works. Like I'm putting myself in their shoes, and be like, okay, if I leave this purse on the seat, if I were to walk by, I could just literally break that window, grab it, and run. Like that's how I think. Like if I'm walking into a restaurant or a place or an area, I will look for the exits. I'll look like vulnerabilities in certain scenarios. Always lock my doors. I don't know. Maybe that's not normal between kids.
Well, it's normal if you grew up, let's say, in New York, right, Yuri? All of those things are things he does, definitely. You put stuff in your trunk, because if anybody sees anything in your car, they smash your windows.
Yeah, sure.
You always look for exits when you go to clubs, because if somebody starts shooting guns, you need to be out before you're trampled. Let's see, what was the other one? But
it's kind of it's kind of like I don't know if you guys have ever seen like The Bourne Identity, but he like sits down at a diner and he has a conversation with, I should know the characters, but I don't, the woman that he's escaping with, and he begins describing that he doesn't know anything but these skills.
Yeah.
And I do agree that it's kind of a New York City thing. Like I had to get used to not locking my car when I moved to Vermont, because it's the second least populated state in the United States. But like knowing where the exits are, like I thought that was literally just a New York thing, but it makes sense when you put it in a better terms of like knowing the mind of a criminal. I think what I'm really curious about is like, does it ever turn off?
No, it doesn't.
Fascinating.
No, it's just how I grew up. Like my dad, like I won't go into too much detail, but he had 2 weapons on him at all times, and that for me that was normal. So like pull him aside and be like, show his badge, like, look, I'm an FBI agent, and then like they talk to him a little bit and he'd be on his way. I don't know, that was a normal thing for me. I thought that was like routine for everyone, basically. So
yeah.
So how do you go from son of a father who works in the FBI to PT work?
I think that's probably one of the reasons why I chose this realm of like my occupation is I saw the stressors involved, and I respect and feel for law enforcement that have to deal with these extreme situations, and come home to a family and attempt to turn that off. It doesn't work that way. They've already shown that you keep your adrenaline at a certain amount, and that's your normal. So when you come home and that dips back down, it's going to affect your mental health, your quality of life. And your normal is being in the office, being in the streets, because that's how you function. I didn't want that. I didn't want to work 12, 15-hour days, putting my body on the line, putting my family at risk. I wanted something where I could help people and just their day-to-day life, and come home from a 9 to 5 and yeah, something really relaxed and fulfilling.
So a side note, or like maybe a like anyway, I'm gonna say something. So our brother is always, so my brother, my sister, and Yuri and I are like on snow in the winter more than off snow. Like my brother and my sister probably don't miss any days from December to like May. And we're wondering like, like does this constant like being on the chairlift and then doing thousands of vertical feet every day, does this affect us? And like our adrenaline's this high all the time. And then like then when we go home, like we don't know what to do. And I mean like summer's really hard.
Yeah.
And you don't, do you have any sort of suggestions for that, as far as like physical, like ways to like calm your body and be like, it's okay to not be at 100 all the time?
Yeah.
So I think that I think if you're a snowboarder and you like ride or die, like you were describing, I think we're all a little bit of adrenaline junkies. And so we like that, like we want to chase that adrenaline. But like you said, when you go home, or if you get injured, or if it's the summertime and you can't do your sport, you get depressed. Like depression in our sport is huge. Like not only snowboarding, but mountain biking, or like I have a girlfriend in Alaska who split boards and does all the outdoor things over there. And right now she just broke her collarbone and going through some hard mental stuff. Like when you come down from that high, it can be a little bit of quite a low. And so personally, this is not scientifically backed, just gonna say that. Personally, I really think that getting your body moving each day, so doing your workouts outside of just snowboarding, because doing a workout is bringing your adrenaline up. It's releasing endorphins, it's releasing all those like happy hormones. And so if you find a routine in that each day, it keeps something consistent. It keeps something like a constant, like, okay, every day I do this resets me. And it's not to say that like you're not going to be depressed if you worked out, but like at least it's something that gets you up. But it's not so much up here like snowboarding, but it at least gives you something to carry on throughout the day, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I like that. That's like very helpful, because yes, in our world you're hurt, and then the internet makes it worse. And what do you do?
To add on to that, humans are adaptable. So if you're doing those things, majority of the year, like your body and your mind is going to adapt to the situation. So if you take that away, I think you just need to find, as you already know, a different outlet.
Yeah.
So that could be, there's a million ways to do that, to fulfill that need. That could be mountain biking, trail running, rock climbing. There's different outlets to that. So, and like Sarah said, just being active in general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like art is a good way to do that, because you can be a junkie about your art and then
Totally.
pass over. Totally.
Absolutely. Because anything like that, like rock climbing, artwork, reorganizing homes, whatever it is, like that's your meditative state. Like you don't think about anything else in it. So like if you find one thing through each season, that's your meditation state. Like you're like, this is all I'm focused on, nothing else matters. Like, yeah, in the flow.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So on your website, you guys offer, or I guess just services you offer, are like workouts, massage therapy, physical therapy, personal training, yoga. I guess I would like to know how you managed to do all that, especially with like your recent like internet fame. I just feel like you guys have gained like a ton of followers, and like you've really been, I feel like it's been like a year, maybe 2. Is that true?
A year.
And so just with its like huge demand, how are you guys like staying on top of all of that, and what are your goals for the future?
Oh man, it's hard because we have so many realms. And so like just yesterday I had a massage client, a personal training client, and then I taught at Orange Theory, and I had to make 2 posts and edit. Like, so we're really busy. And people don't see that side because all they see is what we put up. They don't see like how much work we do. Besides that, the goal would be to let some things go and maybe hone into one thing. That way our schedules aren't all over the place, because every day is different. Like every day has a different schedule, and that's exciting because it's never like repetitive and mundane, but it's also stressful sometimes. And so if we could get to the point where it's like, okay, memberships through Patreon, like our Snoga memberships, if we can make that our main income, so we don't have to. And I love giving my massages, and I love my personal training clients, and I'd probably keep a couple, but I wouldn't be looking for more, and I wouldn't be doing that as a main income. I'd be doing it because I enjoy it. And you know, like,
Yeah. There's never we don't get a day off, so to speak. We're always working. We may take a half a day off here and there to go rock climbing, or when snowboard season starts, we'll take a couple half days off, mountain biking, whatever. But we work through the weekends, and at the end of the day, it doesn't feel like work.
No, it doesn't.
That makes sense. I know that sounds so cliche, but it's fun. It's our baby. We're building it. We built it from the ground up. So it's some entrepreneur told me entrepreneurship is the only job where you trade in your 9 to 5
for 24/7
for an 80-hour.
Yeah.
As you know, so.
Yeah, and that.
And we've definitely, like, our revenue sources and our goals have changed over the past year. So before I was seeing quite a few movement consultations. I had quite a few clients, and then over time that has been
Scaled back,
dwindled down to 2 to 3 and consistent patients. And then I also work part-time home health with the geriatric older population, which I still very much enjoy. And then Sarah still works at Orange Theory and does massage, and so we just have all these different revenue sources, and we still keep our skills relevant while also growing this online business.
Wow, you guys are amazing.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Just busy, yeah.
It's awesome. But it's cool. It's cool for people like us and like our listeners on the pod, just to see like what it truly takes to make your goals happen. And like it might have seemed like, I don't know, 5 years ago, like, would you ever imagine that you were doing this? But here you are now, because you are such hard workers, and like truly anything is possible if you're willing to do the 24/7 hard work and just make it happen. And it's really cool for everyone to see that.
Yeah, thank you. And at the end of the day, like, nothing is guaranteed, right? Like tomorrow, something like, for example, when Instagram went down on Monday, like that's a
Wasn't
huge.
that so nice?
It's super nice. But, like, it just goes to show how vulnerable we are. Like, that could be gone. Gary talks about it in a second. That could be gone in minutes. And what do we have? Like, nothing. So, one, making sure that there are multiple streams of revenue, and making sure that you have a backup plan, because
email list.
Instagram could be irrelevant in a year. Nobody knows.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you guys are both, you have a good head on your shoulders for like, just, it's kind of been a theme throughout this pod so far of like planning for the future, and also like kind of covering yourselves with like making sure people know that like your whole ethical thing. I'm saying that in a really terrible way, but you know what I mean. And there was one other thing that you guys were, just like the thinking everyone's a criminal thing, like just to make sure, like, I just feel like, can I start over?
Yeah.
I don't think everyone's a criminal.
No, I know. I just had a full-on panic. Okay. I guess what I'm trying to say is that good job.
So I have a question. Can
you summarize it for me?
So I thought it was very fascinating that you guys were talking about balance, or like finding that state of flow, as in like when the winter ends, finding your own way to like continue snowboarding, even if it's not snowboarding. The fact that you guys have described that, and then you embody it over the fact that you'd like to build this business and then still maintain, let's say, massage work or just any type of like medical caretaking. Why do you guys feel like that is so essential to your balance?
keeping on, oh my gosh, wow. Orange Theory. I've been an Orange Theory coach, which is it's a gym with high interval, high intensity training. And I've been working there since 2017, and it's my happy place. Like, it's loud music, people are freaking killing themselves. I'm dancing. Like, it's just, I'm such a high energy person, and I'm a people person. I love, like, I'm an extrovert. And so if I just stuck to the online stuff all day, I'd go crazy. Whereas doing things like Orange Theory gets me my social tank filled. And then doing things like massage, like, I've been a massage therapist since 2014, so like 7 years, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
roughly.
7 years. And so I remember there was 1 year I took off to go travel and do my yoga training and do all stuff like that. And then when I came back to massage, I was so blown away by how much I missed it. Because it's weird, but you have a strange, like, my hands know muscles really well. And when I touch a muscle, I know what it needs. And I love that. Like, I love helping someone who's having a spasm to just, even just like a hand on it, to like just calm it down, or like subtle movements, or like, I don't know. I just love that skill. And so I wouldn't do it, like you said, I wouldn't do it for my main income anymore, because it's a lot of work, but I love doing it.
I have a friend who's a massage therapist, and they said that every person's body tells a story. Do you feel that that's true when you meet them and start working as a massage therapist?
100%. Like, and you can feel it off of them. Like, there's some people, like, I get done working with, and I'm like, oh, like, I get in my car and I'm like shaking it all off of me. I'm like, get this energy off me. Because, and it's not bad. They're not bad people. They're just up here, like high anxiety, high stress, depression, worry. Like, that stuff it's not just mental, it's on your body. It's connected. And so when you feel those muscles, you feel that almost radiation of, it's weird. It sounds cuckoo,
Well,
but
here's a good example. Have you seen that? What's that movie with Tom Hanks, The Green Mile?
Green Mile.
Green Mile. Yeah.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
kind of like that. In any healthcare occupation, it's not just, this is the science, take these pills, go home. Maybe some doctors and nurses are like that, unfortunately, but any good healthcare worker is going to have empathy, and part of having empathy is accepting and walking a mile in their patient's shoes, listening, having that human touch, and taking the brunt of that load to guide this patient back to a better version of themselves, or to get out of this temporary hole that they're in. So if you look at the movie The Green Mile and kind of view it as, when he sucks in the cancer and all the evil in the world, it's almost like that in a way. And this is a big reason that burnout is such a big issue in healthcare, because it's these healthcare workers that are taking all this information, this load, but they're not finding a way to release it. And that could be through snowboarding, that could be through going on a hike, that could be through talking to someone. So yeah, it's a weird paradigm that I think that is not really talked about enough, and we're seeing, especially with COVID, the end results of that. So
yeah, and I think,
I'm so sorry. Keep going.
no, you're good. I just think COVID has also made it so we're a lot more pulled away from each other. There's less touch, and there's less empathy a little bit, because of everything that's going on. And so, like, the other day I had a client in tears, and I hugged her, and she was like, oh my gosh, it's been so long since I've hugged someone. Like, gosh, it's gonna make me cry. But like that's going on right now, like, there's people who haven't been hugged in a long time. And it just, yeah. Anyways, that touch and that one-on-one and that caring, like, that's really important. And it's kind of fleeting at the moment.
I think it needs to be replenished. Like, there's a social component that's very specific for everyone. I've seen that on two different notes, and like Mark, I completely agree that, like, in adaptive work, I often see caregiving fatigue, and like we go to classes for it. And then even on the other end of this, like, because my mother was a nurse who worked through the pandemic, so I very much acknowledge that. My father and I worked a fly fishing program for veterans, and I watched him shake someone's hand for the first time that wasn't in his immediate circle as we were working the event. And I'm sure it was very similar to the hug, of the extent of like acknowledging that I'm witnessing someone interacting with a human for the first time after a long time.
Yeah.
Once again, like to bring this full circle, we're on a digital podcast as we have this conversation. How do you take the skills that you guys have for like these positive experiences that you experience day to day and try to apply them to your content as you attempt to deploy empathy for this stuff? Like, who are the people you're thinking of as you're making this type of content?
Wow, that's a
great question.
Yeah.
Do you want to answer, or do you want me to?
You can go first and I'll jump in.
I think a lot of it is finding a thing that we can all relate on, being able to relate on a funny scenario or a hard scenario or whatever, just finding that common ground first to know like, okay, we're in this together. We've all been there. But then also we love humor, because especially at the moment, there's not enough humor, I feel like, in the world. And we're both naturally born comedians already.
Her more than myself.
So like, I feel like finding humor in sometimes hard topics can be really fun. But then also, like, today we posted a story that happened to us that was a really hard experience, and what we learned from it, and how to use that into future experiences, and how to learn from the hard stuff. And so I think just finding that common ground, using humor, and then being real about shit gets hard.
Yeah, and I think there is a limitation with digital platform or social media. People only see the superficial surface of things, and that may be intentional or not. Because I think our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. So people are only willing to put in so much time before swiping up or moving on to something else. So in saying that, I think really to show your true colors, there has to be a sense of authenticity. And the internet is fantastic at smelling bullshit. So if you're not authentic, you're going to be pushed aside, truly. And I think that's what Sarah and I do well, or we attempt to do well, is we try to show our authentic selves, the good and the bad. And that's all you can really do. I think if someone is willing to transfer their income for our services, then we can really dive in deep and get to know one another at one-on-one. But it's very few and far between. So otherwise, we just have the authenticity that we can kind of emit through our social media platforms.
And I think a smile goes a long way. There's so many people who are like, cheese, and it's like it's a little smile, but like, I think there's a lot of like this serious face going on that people are like this, and it's just great. Like, if you want to do that, that's awesome. But I just think that there needs to be more smiles, not only online, but even when you go on walks. Like, when I pass by someone, I'm gonna smile and wave. Like, I think that's a big like part of the community too.
So I loved that post today, and if you guys didn't see it, basically, I guess you got all of your money stolen, like from airlines and from people, and you were in another country, and one of you called your mother, and I figured, like, when I was reading that I was like, help me, Mom, but it was, give me some advice of how to think in this situation. And what your mom told you was that you're going to remember this day for the rest of your life, so make it a good day. And I thought that was so rad. Because like, I've never looked at like, and you're like, I remember terrible days, but if I thought that way, then I mean, I just thought that was so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. My mom's a mental health therapist. She's actually in her last year of her doctorates for it, her PhD. And she does she's incredible. She conducts studies, and she does, what is that? Lens unit. Basically, she uses a wand on people's brains to help people come back from concussions and disabilities and stuff like that. And when I got my concussions, she did it to me to help my brain. And so since I was little, I've always been her guinea pig. Like, she would learn something from school and then like come use it on me. And so when that happened in Argentina or Brazil, I messaged her and I was like, help. And she's always like she's taught me to view the world from a brain perspective, kind of like Mark's dad is from a criminal perspective. I view the world from a brain perspective. So if you have pain, you don't really have pain. It's your brain just telling you something's wrong. So if you think it's painful, then it's painful. But if you're like, like, it's okay, I'll just take care of it, like, we'll get there, then it's less painful. And so, yeah, in moments like that, I'm like, what do I need to tell my brain?
Yeah,
That's so cool.
That was so cool. And you weren't raised in a commune, but when you describe it to me, it sounds like you were raised in a commune. Will you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I like to tell people that we grew up Amish without being Amish. So like we said, no TV, no internet. We had a self-sustaining farm, so like we butchered our own pigs, sheep, milked our own goats. My mom rescued and retrained horses to give them away, and with chickens, rabbits, like literally every animal you can think of, guinea pigs. We had everything. Like grew up with animals in the home, and yeah, my mom made our own dresses, and yeah, just very like self-sustaining, had our own garden, sold things. Like it was really cool. But my mom had a daycare for kids with disabilities. And so even though we were homeschooled with a bunch of farm animals, we still had a bunch of kids in the house as well. They were all like, some mental disabilities, some physical disabilities, just all over the place. And so yeah, it wasn't a commune, but it was.
Wouldn't you like travel with them in the back of the truck bed or something?
Oh my gosh! One day, the car broke down apparently, and so I was at soccer practice because we were social. I did sports, and I was at soccer practice, and I was the last person to get picked up, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, where's my mom?" Apparently the car broke down. So what she did was she got on her horse and she got all the other horses tied to each other and put all the daycare kids on a horse. And eventually you just see a stream of like 12 horses coming down the street. I'm not even kidding you. And I'm like, that's my mom.
Were they like little kids? Like how old were the kids?
These are kids, like she was saying, with with autism, with physical disabilities, so it's
just on the horses riding into town.
But it's just
so amazing.
Like, ordinary.
And that's from like 3 miles, 5 miles away. Like they rode.
Dang.
Oh,
an
it's
hour.
so rad.
Yeah.
That's so fun.
I know that there isn't, but a photo of that would be like everything.
Oh yeah.
That would be so cool.
That's
maybe there was a nosy neighbor that took a photo.
Maybe. That's the one sad thing about growing up it's cool and it's sad, but like we didn't have anything digital, so we don't have very many pictures of our upbringing. My grandma was the one with the camera, so anytime she'd come visit, like those are the pictures we have. Yeah.
Wow, so fun.
Yeah.
Is there like an animal that you're just kind of like, I don't like that animal because they were like around and they were always just kind of like a jerk, and you were like, like
actually,
really...
What do you think you're gonna say? You go first.
You're gonna say llama.
Yes, good job. Good job. Yeah, llamas.
I've heard that llamas are total jerks.
Assholes.
Yeah, they spit, don't they?
Horrible.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah, we had our neighbors like went and got a llama farm, and people would be like, come visit us, and we'd be like,
Nope. They're cute and they're cool looking, but they spit and they'll charge you, and they're protective. People don't know this, but if you get a llama, if you have like a herd of sheep, you want one llama because they will protect. Like they're kind of like the wolf. Like they'll herd off any like cougars, wolves, anything else. They'll charge on purpose. But if you have 2 llamas, they'll fight each other. So you always have to have an odd number of llamas.
Whoa.
Lonely and mean.
Lonely and mean.
Okay, speaking of being lonely and mean, let's talk about being old and still doing sports. So yeah, I guess I'm just talking about myself. So I want to snowboard every day for the rest of my life. But yeah, things hurt, and I know you guys have a theory on pain and like when to push forward, when to not. Also, as I told you before, I'm just trying to be Tom Brady, but I'm like failing at it because I can't just eat vegetables and go to bed at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Also, I'm not married to a supermodel who has all the money in the world. So there's that.
That's awesome.
Sounds like a lot of work to me. Being a supermodel. Although,
Very good, very good.
right. Yeah, so it's crazy. Like Tom Brady is a perfect example. Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, Tom Brady is trying to play in the NFL till he's 50. Like that's crazy.
That is crazy.
But it just goes to show, aside from money, like we have the tools. You know, he's like, let's get real. Like Tom Brady, he's an incredible athlete, right? He's in the NFL, but he's not the best athlete.
What?
He's just he's the GOAT. He's the GOAT, but there are better athletes. There have been better quarterbacks than Tom Brady. But Tom Brady is intelligent because he knows how to take care of his body. He's had an incredible line to protect him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been, I mean, let's face it, he's been a little lucky in some ways, but he's not the best athlete. He just knows what to do to take care of himself, and he's been willing to put in the work to do so. In saying that, every person has that ability. Genetics aside, we now have enough science and data showing if we eat a certain way, doesn't have to be anything fancy, if we add in some resistance training, add in a little bit of aerobic training every week, we reduce our stress to a degree, we sleep, we have some outlets to meditate or reduce that stress, we have a community. These are things that we've known for thousands of years, but we now we know it. This is certain. We have the tools. People know we're not supposed to eat hamburgers. We're not supposed to eat Chinese every night, but it feels good. We eat this dopamine, right? But we know these things, and we have the ability to keep snowboarding for years to come. 40 years old is not old anymore. People are living to 80, 90, 100. There's like twins that are 107 years old now from Japan. Like the next child that's going to live to be 150 is already alive. I mean, so sorry, I'm going to go on a rant here, but like if we know these things, we know we can take care of our bodies. We need to listen to our bodies. Our bodies are constantly speaking to us. So if we have these aches and pains, like we need to listen to it. So I won't dive too much into pain science, but we're now realizing that this is an ever-changing world of science, but it's not my theory. But pain science, they're looking at it as a multi-dimensional kind of factor. So they call it the biopsychosocial paradigm. So that's like the biological sense of it. There's the psychological part, and there's a social part of it. So there's the knife going into your leg, and then there's the factors outside of that, the social realm. So what's your stress like? What's your community like? And there's the psychological, what's your mental health like? And they're using all of these factors to kind of bundle it all together. So it's no longer just the knife is through my leg, my body's telling me that it's painful. Now they're looking at it in the sense of pain as an output. So it's your brain telling you that, look, there's something there, we need to take care of it. There's a famous story of a construction worker who steps on a nail, it goes through his boot. He's rushed to the ER, and the doctors take x-rays. He's screaming in agony. The doctors come back with the images, and they say, son, the nail didn't even go through your foot. They take the shoe off, and the nail went through his, like in between his toes. Didn't even pierce his foot. In his head, it had pierced his foot, broken bones, gone out the other end. That was all his brain talking to him. There had been nothing going on in his foot. And I think that's a perfect example of how powerful our minds are. And again, this is like, we were just scratching the surface on pain science and what exactly is going on. I think the Nobel Prize was just released for the proprioception and how it relates to pain, like with pressure and heat. And I don't know. I haven't really been able to read more into it, but like we're just unraveling this crazy world of how the mind connects to the body and how it you know, relates and tells us what pain actually is. But to go back full circle to your answer, like our mission is to keep riders riding until they're 70 years old. And that's perfectly possible as long as you put in the work. Like we can tell you what to do all day, but like at the end of the day, you're gonna have to put that work in. So, you know, that's gonna be going to bed a little bit earlier. That's gonna be eating well. I'm just gonna keep going, repeating myself here, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, I also think, like you were saying, you're like, yeah, I don't want to go to bed at 8 p.m. and eat healthy all the time and blah, blah. I think there's such a culture, especially in snowboarding, culture is such a huge part of how we conduct ourselves. So like, you know, up on the mountain, we're going to have a beer. We're going to go and eat crap food in the parking lot for lunchtime. And you're like, it's just part of the thing. And you don't want to miss out on that. Like, that's a fun thing to do. But kind of like with what we were talking about earlier, everything is balanced. You know, like I like to say it's an 80-20 rule. If you're eating well, sleeping well, exercising well for 80% of the time, do what you want with 20% of the time. You know, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be moving towards a goal. So if that goal is to ride until you're 80, 70 years old, then you should always have that in mind. And then do your daily routines with that in mind. So if you're with your buddies and you want to get a beer and pizza, get a beer and pizza
100%.
And stay up till midnight. But when you're on your own and you have your own routine, maybe do something different.
Yeah, Sarah brings up a good point. I'm not saying live like a monk because it's not realistic, but just live in moderation, right? Like that's how we live our lives. We go out and grab beers with buds, like, you know, like we'll grab a pizza now and then. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're doing it every single day, now we have a different story.
And that's when habits come in.
Yep.
We love habits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answered your question. That was a long-winded answer.
No, that was excellent. Yeah, let's so we do need to wrap it up, but do you want to say something about habits?
Yeah, actually at the moment we are doing, so on our Patreon, it's not only just like yoga classes, but we have a community board where every month we have a new goal, or we have a new like trial challenge, whatever you want to call it. And this month we're talking about habits and how like kind of just, we read a book. What is it called? The Power of Habit. Has anyone read that book? Power of Habit. It's really good, and I highly suggest it. It's amazing what humans do just out of habit and not even realizing it. And so like people are like, oh, I don't want to eat, I don't want to do this because it's too hard. I'm like, yeah, but if you trick yourself into doing it, it becomes just a repetitive thing. So like, and every habit comes from a trigger. So that's what I was talking about with my community, my Patreon group, is when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is grab a big drink of water. And that's because that's my trigger, is the wake up. The habit is the water. You know, when I get stressed, that's a trigger. A lot of people, myself included, when I get anxiety, like before we're watching a movie that I can't handle because he watches crazier movies than I can handle, like immediately I go to my phone. I'm like, oh, I can't, or I'll get up and walk away. Like the stress is the trigger, my phone is the habit. And I think that's really common for a lot of people these days. And so like just knowing like, okay, being aware of it first and being like, oh, why am I on my phone right now? Or why am I doing this? What made me do it? Like when you go in the kitchen, which cupboard do you open first every time? Is it your snack cupboard? Or is it your fridge and you're getting your produce? Like, it's just like noticing those small things and first identifying the triggers and then changing the habits. Yeah.
I like this very much. Yuri, you had a question before we wrap up?
No, all this is perfect because every time I have a question, stuff gets answered. The habits thing was great. Yeah, thank you guys. I think the only maybe one thing I could think of is somebody who's embracing aging, like let's say approaching their 30s, and you already said it, like taking the mantra or identity of snowboarding and attempting to transition it so they can ride for a lifetime. How do you advise them into building those habits?
One at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Like you can't just be like, I'm gonna do everything right now. Like you gotta start, like people who want to switch to plant-based eating, I'm like, okay, don't do it all at once. Just switch your milk to oat milk or something. Like just do one thing at a time. Once you do that for 4 weeks and you feel like you got a grasp of it, now add on something else. Do that for 4 weeks, do both of them, and then you got to grasp that, add on something else.
And I think I'm going to add on to that is I will relate this to patient care. Everyone has a different motivation, right? That could be to lose weight, to spend more time with your kids, to snowboard longer. Whoever is looking to make a change in their life, a major change, because these are not easy, you really need to hone in on what is your
why.
What is your why? Yeah, like, why are you wanting to make these changes? And you need to focus on the steps on how to get there and the reasons why that's your why, if that makes sense. Because you need to add emotion to it. If you don't add emotion to your why, you're not going to make a change. And if you do, you're not going to stick with it. So any major change, for example, someone gets in a car accident and they realize, wow, this life is not infinite. I need to appreciate every single day. Those are the people that make those crazy changes. Someone's wife or husband gets cancer and they make these crazy changes because now there's emotion attached. They have a why, and now they're going to stick to it. Unless you can do those things, you're not going to make those major changes in your life.
Oof.
Yep.
Well said. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. This was like so fun. And I learned so much. Real fast, what are your go-to pocket snacks when you're on the chairlift?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Any kind of granola bar. At the moment, we're huge on Mind Right granola bars because they have like, what do they have in them? Ashwagandha.
Ashwagandha. They have like just like a few different nootropics
that are supposed to help your brain, and we're all about like, okay, focus, land that trick, and so like brain food.
Nice.
So Mind Right granola bars,
chocolate,
I
always have chocolate,
dark chocolate. Nuts, any kind of nuts. Oh, cuties. We love.
Yeah.
Can I say it?
Say it. You gotta say it.
Because it's like food and a drink.
Right.
It's true. It's true.
Don't encourage her with this one.
That's my favorite.